These tales of the ships that never back arrow sad enough, but it's the ship that never went out, the ghosts of the sea, that give the sailor man a Oripa feeling when he moots them out. Where the waves are rolling high and the winds are singing funeral songs. The speaker was mate Bob Ayling, who has followed the sea as boy and man for nearly 50 years. Surrounded by a group of interested listeners in the Blio room of the sailor's happy home in Smith Street, Motto Bob, as all the sailors call him, was telling stories of strange sights that Ho has witnessed at sea. Ayling is now mate of a coastwise fishing schooner, but in the old days Ho sailed in some of the largest trading ships and the strongest whalers that ever sailed out of an American port flying the Stars and Stripes. As I said, boys, though old man went on, it's the ships that never went out from any port that any sailor never forgets when he sees one of them. Woe may remember those ships that went out and never came back for a time if we had a shipmate aboard, but we can forget. But there's no forgetting a ghost of the sea. It was back in the early Furcios one had. I saw my first CEA ghost, fine today I can shut my eyes and see it just as plain as I could see it then. I was a sailor oil, a fishing schooner, and Wero catching cod off the coast of Newfoundland. We had been out 10 days and Wero almost ready to start for home with a full cargo when a nasty offshore breeze came on late one evening. Woe stood out to sea, for there was a heavy fog along with the wind. It was a stiff and stody blow, so we rode o the Wavus under barrow polos during the night, waiting for daylight and the fog to lift before shaping our oars for Homo. All through the night we sent up rockets at intervals and kept the ship's bell going, because Woe could not see 10 feet ahead at times on account of the fog. But it was nearly morning before we beard or saw an answering signal to warn us that another vessel was near. I was on the early morning watch, and about half an hour before daylight I made out a signal light a short distance ahead on our potbow. It was a strange light, a pale blue in color, and it flashed up and down at irregular intervals. The fog was still thick, and it was impossible to tell how nor we were to the vessel. I called the mate on deck and pointed to the Strago signal light. He looked at it a long time, and, with a shako of his head, said he could not make it out at all. The lights showed that the vessel could not go far away, so we changed our course a little, and then fired a gun. There was no answer, and we fired again and again with the same result. By and by I saw that though mate Wab, very grave and queer looking, Ho was pacing back and forth on the dock, not intending the cold, misty rain that was falling, and all the time he kept his eyes fixed on that queer-looking bluish light that flashed up out of the fog and darkness ahead. At last I made so bold as to ask the mate what both thought of it. "It's a ghost," he said, looking at me with a pitying look. "A ghost," says I. "Yes, a ghost of those sea. Wait till the fog lifts. You may see it then." The fog lifted a bit when daylight came, and then I saw the ghost, as the mate said I would, rising grim and white out of the fog and waves that were rolling high. I saw a FNLL rigged ship of queer design. The wind was blowing half a gale, but not a mast or polo of the ghost ship bent an inch, and not one of the broad white sails seemed to strain at the ropes. The Phantom was close on our port bow, and as the fog cleared away we had a splendid view from her water line to the top of her masts, with the waves pitching and rolling mountain high, and the wind howling around our poles. The ghost ship was riding out those storm as steady as a painted ship on a painted canvas ocean. Every man on board crowded on dock, and while they had to hold on to the railing to keep from being washed overboard, though he stood and gazed at the Phantom ship as long as it was in sight. Some of them that were a bit religious like made those sign of the cross, and others tried to say a bit of a prayer. The fact is that every man on board thought the Phantom ship a warning of death. The captain went below and drank hot grog till ho was that reckless no ghost had any terrors for him. Then, as the wind went down a bit, he ordered us to mako sail and bear down on the Phantom ship. Up went our sail in a jiffy, and we flew along before the wind, but we could get no nearer the Phantom ship. Suddenly we saw the white ghost ship lurch forward, her sails trembled for an instant, and then she seemed to sink straight down into the sea. 10 seconds. From the time we saw the first quiver of her sails the ship had vanished, and we never saw her again. During the day the storm went down, and putting about we made port in safety. But when that schooner sailed for the fishing banks again, it was with an entirely new crew from the Oakton to cabin boy. Not a man who saw the ghost ship from her deck would sail on that schooner again. So is the old sailor belief in the ghosts of the sea as warnings of danger. The men who see one of them will never sail again on the same ship if they live to see Pot New York Dispatch.